After a 1 week little hiatus, we are back. Square Soccer Radio live on the air with you on our YouTube channel. And of course, if you're listening on podcast, we appreciate you doing that as well. I'm your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting Chris Belcher. That is the young buck, Mr. Andy York. And Andy, flu is finally out of my house. I think we're on the mend. Had to miss last week, but we are back. Road to WrestleMania is heating up, my friend.
Yeah, it is. We have a full picture for Chamber now, which is going to be a lot of fun to dive into and talk about. And our first 2 WrestleMania matches confirmed, which is always exciting no matter what. So talking about all that is going to be a lot of fun, and diving into it and fantasy booking the outcome and things that are to come is always a lot of fun. So it's like the perfect time of year for fantasy booking. So it's going to be a lot of fun to dive into it.
It is. The show is for the fans, by the fans. We want to talk about what you guys want to talk about. Vacation Aaron is already in the chat, and he wants Liv Morgan in a steel cage match. I mean, I no words. I'm not going to say any words. All I'm going to say is I've got a couple pages of notes here, but you guys drive the show. You guys drop your comments, drop your questions about what you want to talk about, and we will talk about it live here on the show. As Andy just said, we got WrestleMania matches confirmed. Elimination Chamber picture is becoming clear. We plan to talk about those things and a few more bombshells that happened this week in the world of wrestling. But again, you drop those comments, questions, we will take them live. And don't forget, if you're watching on replay, make sure you drop the comments as well. We will answer those afterwards. So don't want you to feel left out. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It is free, doesn't cost you a thing, doesn't sign you up for anything, but it helps us so much. Shout out to SportsWire Radio, WSN, our partners. We thank them for playing our stuff and for their support. Andy, let's get to the biggest questions in the world of wrestling, and one that we're starting right off the rip. You mentioned it, I mentioned it. 2 not just WrestleMania matches, championship matches have been confirmed for WrestleMania. Let's talk about the World Heavyweight Championship match. Gunther will defend against the Men's Royal Rumble winner. WrestleMania main event, Jey Uso. We saw Jey Uso make this proclamation last week in Nashville, which I was in the building for. It was a ton of fun, ton of energy. Jey Uso saying, I'm not sure that I should do this. But here we are, Andy. He picks Gunther. I had some reservations about it. I'm sure you do as well. But here we are, man. What do you think now that this one is official for WrestleMania?
Yeah, so this is different in a lot of ways than what I would picture. Like, what I would picture this being, I think, is very different. Because this would not be 6 months ago, 8 months ago, if you'd have told me that this is what we were getting for WrestleMania. I would be, like you said, very hesitant about it, very confused by it, probably thinking, why are we doing this? Like, Jay's cool, but, what are we doing? During the Rumble, even before the Rumble, like leading up to the Rumble itself, and then every post-Rumble crowd has proven why Jey Uso won the Rumble. Like, yep. You can say what you want about his singles run. You can say what you want about all of that. The dude is the most over guy in the company, and honestly is one of the most over guys I have ever seen in my entire life. To the point where
are we on that point, and then you can continue. Are we at Daniel Bryan, or have we surpassed Daniel Bryan at this point?
I don't think we've surpassed. I think we're at. I mean, I think the Yeet movement and the Yes movement are the same thing, just different stories being told, but they're the same end goal in mind. And so I think you see, and the thing that's crazy is most of the time when you have somebody that's really popular, you also have a large contingency of the crowd that is against them because they are so popular in some ways. That doesn't seem to be the case with Jey Uso right now. So I am massively on board with this. I am right now on the train of Jey beating Gunther for the world title. Now, what do we do after that? I have no idea. We'll figure that out when we get there. But right now, I think we're heading in that direction of this potentially could be night one's main event, and I'm totally fine with that.
As we compare it to Daniel Bryan, we know that after he won the championship at WrestleMania 30, it followed it up with injury. He ended up losing the title, relinquishing the title, whatever, however that went. He never really recovered because of the injuries. He couldn't help that. But hopefully Jey Uso has better luck. Got a comment here from Marcelo Romero. I mentioned Jey being bigger than Daniel Bryan. You said he's the most over guy in the company. Is he bigger than Cody Rhodes right now?
They're almost impossible to compare, though. In some ways, because I think Jey is the biggest babyface in the company right now. And I don't think that's really an argument. I think he's the fan favorite. See, that's the thing. I think he's the fan favorite. I don't think he's the bigger babyface.
Well, Tyler Chambers says, no, you're out of your mind. No way Jey is bigger than Cody.
It's a toss-up. Like, honestly, you put them in the ring together, the crowd speaks for themselves. And I think the argument that one is bigger than the other is not necessarily that important. Because, and I'm using this for context. I'm not comparing these two individuals to these other two individuals. So I'm just putting that out there. But I'm sure in the Attitude Era, there wasn't a whole lot of, well, is The Rock bigger than Stone Cold Steve Austin, or Stone Cold Steve Austin bigger than The Rock? They're two titans at the top of their game right now.
And we didn't have a brand split in the Attitude Era to not even worry about it. One's on SmackDown, one's on Raw. They were both on every show.
Yeah. So I don't think you can. I don't think it's like who's bigger than who. I think we are at a point we've never been in before since the Attitude Era in WWE, where we have multiple top baby faces that are true baby faces, and they are both at the top of their game. And I don't think you can really compare the two together.
Cody Rhodes has absolutely been the most consistent since he returned at WrestleMania 38. Despite the injury, everybody wanted him back. He came back stronger, better than ever. So he's been the most consistent. Just remember, Vacation Aaron says you're cooking with this take. Okay. All right. I'll add to that.
I'm scared when he agrees with me, to be real honest with you.
It's very scary. So I'm speaking from experience. Anyway, think about this, Andy. Cody has been, the steady hand. He's been the world champ. We are coming off of last WrestleMania, Jey Uso wrestling the worst match on the card against his brother. And
probably
now
the worst match of the year in WWE.
And now we're talking about him main eventing the fall. Look, what are we doing? So kudos to Jey. Kudos to WWE, and kudos to the fans for rallying behind him and not letting that deter his popularity and all that kind of stuff. I'm on board with Jey beating Gunther at WrestleMania as well. Here's where I'm going to reel this back in, though, Andy. We have 61 days until WrestleMania. They said that on commentary tonight, so roughly 10 weeks. I just want to know what they're going to do between now and then to make us want Jey to win. We can say right now, Jey's the popular wrestler. Jey should win the world title. The momentum is with him. There's always the question of what's going to happen next. But Andy, what I'm curious about is they can't just have a pull apart every single week. Right. Gunther can't come out and cut the same promo every week. Jey can't come out and say, well, they're counting me out. That's why I'm going to win. Blah, 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 blah. Like, we can't do the same thing every week. So what are they going to do over the next 10 weeks?
Yeah, that's kind of the question. I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but that's kind of the same question of Tiffany and Charlotte. What are we going to do for 10 weeks with them too? But I think theirs is different because theirs is a much fresher feud than Jey Gunther, because we've seen elements of this in the past. Yeah. I enjoyed what they did tonight. I think that was a great way of flipping the roles and having Gunther come out from the crowd.
It's so funny.
I think that was a great way to go about that. I think we're going to see a lot of sit-down interviews. I think that's a great way for Gunther to get his point across even more. But I think we are invested in Jey right now because of how much fun he is, right? Yes. Like, it's part of I would say this was like the LA Knight movement a couple years ago, but has actually been allowed to be pushed forward and is doing something. The thing we have to do now is emotionally get invested with Jey. We have to get, that's the thing that I think that's the difference between the Daniel Bryan run and the Jey Uso run is we were emotionally invested in that Daniel Bryan run. Like we were, and the same thing with Kofi Mania. Like we were invested emotionally because of how much they've been counted out, how much they've been beat down, how much they were the B+ player and this, that, and the other. We've gotten glimpses of that with Jey, but we haven't delved into it deep yet. And I think that's what we need to do over the next 10 weeks is get everyone emotionally invested in Jey to the point where when we get to WrestleMania, if Jey doesn't win, we riot. Like it's got to be one of those builds. I feel like for WrestleMania to head in, especially with Gunther.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need video packages, getting us emotionally invested, sit down interviews with Jey. I think is great. Aaron blowing up the comments here. Gunther is so mean, like clean cut mean. Andy, his Shakespeare line tonight. Who said that? Was it Ospreay or was it somebody else that said that?
I don't remember, but that popped me when he said it.
I popped too. I thought it. I wrote it in my notes. I thought it was Ospreay, and I should have looked up who said it, but it was somebody in AEW that said what, like American fans can't handle wrestling matches,
something like that.
It's like reading Shakespeare or something
to a dog.
Yeah, exactly. So having Gunther say that was just absolutely great. All right, that's the men's match that was confirmed. We got a whole lot to talk about with that in the next couple of weeks. You briefly mentioned it. Tiffany Stratton will defend her WWE Women's Championship against the Queen, Charlotte Flair. Charlotte declaring that she's going to face Tiffany this past Friday on SmackDown. It's probably the right call, as we talked about. It's a fresh match. It's the two blondes. It's one could argue the past versus the future. But I think, Andy, you can make the argument for either woman to win this match at WrestleMania. You make the argument that it puts Tiffany on the map by beating Charlotte Flair, but you make the argument that Charlotte is still the GOAT and not John Cena chasing Ric Flair's record, but Charlotte chasing Ric Flair's record. This championship win, I think, would give her 15, and 16 obviously is the record. So, I mean, I think you could go either way with it. Obviously, I think the fans are lean Tiffany, though.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I agree for the most part, except I don't know. I think Tiffany needs us 10 times more than Charlotte does. I think if Charlotte wins this match, then it's just another WrestleMania match or another Charlotte got injured and came back, let's put the title on her moment, and goes away and means nothing. Versus if Tiffany wins this like solidifies her career and moves her up even more. And I think that's more important than, chasing after 16, because Charlotte will get there one day and she doesn't need this WrestleMania to do it. She can do it next year or whenever. But I don't know. I think Charlotte does not need this. And the part of it is the crowd doesn't know how to respond to Charlotte. Like, she came out the first time and sort of cut a babyface promo, but the crowd was booing her the whole time, so she kind of switched it. The next night on SmackDown, she comes out cutting a heel promo, but the crowd's cheering her, so I know nobody knows what to do. So I don't know. It's a back and forth between them, and it can. I think the match can go either way. Yeah, but I think Tiffany needs this more than Charlotte does by a lot.
Yeah, this would definitely solidify her really, really young. I mean, really talking about strapping a rocket to her and pushing her to the moon, which she deserves. I mean, we had the same questions that you just mentioned, Charlotte. We're not sure which side she's on. We've had the same questions about Tiffany for the last, I don't know, since she's been teasing, cashing in on Nia. Should she be a babyface or should she be a heel? Well, Andy, I think WWE answered that question for us this past Friday night on SmackDown when they have now aligned Trish Stratus, Toronto's own, with the women's champion Tiffany Stratton, making that tag team match official. These two taking on Nia Jax and Candice LeRae at Elimination Chamber, a match that I'm really excited for. Anytime you get to see Trish in the ring, especially in Toronto, really, really cool. So I think, I shudder to say this, I think you're right that Tiffany needs the win more, but I think they can still push her forward if she loses. It might be a little harder because, yes, she's just another victim to Charlotte, but I think that will make the crowd boo Charlotte even more and cheer Tiffany even harder.
Yeah, but I think you get the same result with Tiffany winning too.
I agree.
So I don't know. I think like you said, you're making it harder if Charlotte just wins. And so I don't think you can come back in a couple of months, maybe SummerSlam or whatever, and run it back again. And Charlotte can get her win there, and Tiffany can chase or move brands or whatever the case is. But I still lean that Charlotte does not need this as much as Tiffany. And you add in the fact that you bring Trish in. Like, I think Trish can be that mentor figure that you can use with Tiffany to get to that same point. Kind of like what they did with Becky like last year and everything else. Like, them two working together can elevate everybody. I think putting Trish with Tiffany can elevate them more as well.
It's crazy that we share the same air as Tiffany Stratton. That's a comment from Tyler Harrison. And Aaron says that's how I feel about Liv Morgan. Oh my gosh. Y'all are getting us in trouble with these comments, but keep them coming. If you're watching live, just keep those comments coming, keep those questions coming. We'll be more than happy to answer those for you. We've also got a poll in the chat going. We're going to talk about Cody Rhodes and his road to WrestleMania. So vote in that poll. Let us know what you think. Andy, let's move on to the Elimination Chamber matches. The matches themselves are starting to take shape. We just mentioned the tag match that's going to happen. We're going to talk about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in just a little bit. But let's talk about the field being set for the women in the Elimination Chamber to determine Rhea Ripley's WrestleMania, or Io Sky, their WrestleMania opponent. The field is set. You've got, and if you're watching on YouTube, from your left to right, I guess that'd be your left or right. At least that's the way I'm looking at it. Naomi, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, Bayley, and punching her ticket tonight is NXT's Tiffany Stratton. Good grief. Roxanne Perez. Y'all got Tiffany Stratton on my mind. Good grief. This is terrible. Aaron, I see that comment and I'm getting to that. I promise. I'm going to bring that up. Just hang tight for like 5 minutes. Okay. Gonna bring it up. I promise. So a star-studded field in the women's chamber, but I can't help but notice, Andy, we finally are starting to get some clues with this Jade Cargill stuff. And I can't help but notice that both Bianca and Naomi are in this match together. Think it was done on purpose. What say you?
Yeah, I would say so, that it was done on purpose. I'll say this about both chamber matches: as star-studded as they are, they seem very predictable. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yes,
but they seem very predictable. I think the women's one is more of a toss-up than the men's. I think the men's is almost like you can throw a dartboard and know who's going to win. But I think with the women, like the two that come down to my mind is either Bayley or Bianca. Like, I think those are the two.
Oh, Bayley versus Rhea. I hadn't thought about that. That's really interesting.
Something we haven't seen.
Yeah.
And then Bayley or Rhea versus Bianca is a match that we have been asking for a long time. But I will say this: after her showing at the Rumble and everything tonight, Roxanne Perez is my dark horse to win this. I think they have big plans for her on the main roster because she's been in NXT for a while, but it seems like this push to the main roster has come very quickly and is like moving very fast. And so I think like a Rhea Ripley versus a Roxanne Perez is very interesting. Kind of calls back to Rhea versus Charlotte a couple years ago of just giving somebody that chance. But right now, if I had to pick with how the Jade story is going and everything's playing into it, I'm honestly leaning towards Rhea versus Bayley. I think that's a very intriguing matchup and something that we haven't seen before. And you don't have to change either one of them. Like, this is one of those where we can just go into WrestleMania, because you always have one of these WrestleMania matches. Just go into WrestleMania to find out who's better. Yeah, I think this is that spot.
I really hadn't thought about Bayley versus Rhea. That's what you've got me really intrigued there. Of course, we will save our official preview and predictions to next week. So no matter what we say on this show, we have the right to change it by next week. So we reserve that right. It's our show. That's what we're going to do. Having said that, you know that I want to see Alexa Bliss win this match. You know that beyond the shadow of a doubt, her winning this chamber and getting a world title match at WrestleMania would just be incredible. However, probably looking at Alexa versus Liv at WrestleMania, or depending on how this tag title situation shakes out, Liv could be tied up in that. I'm not sure. I think Bayley is I think Bayley's there. I think Roxanne's going to have a really strong showing. She may even be one of the last two. Like, she might be the last one to get eliminated. I don't think she wins. My dark horse is Naomi. Like, if they're running with this Jade stuff like you're talking about, and if it just so happens that she ends up being the one that attacked Jade, wouldn't it be more impactful if she was the one that won the chamber match, somehow winning it, and then Bianca finds out that she was the one that attacked Jade, and there's some shenanigans on, whatever? I think she's my dark horse to watch out in this one.
Yeah, the only thing is whoever attacked Jade is not winning this, because that's happening at WrestleMania. So I think you could have where Naomi made it look like Bianca attacked Jade.
Right.
And we head towards Jade Bianca at WrestleMania, and then post WrestleMania we find out no, it was actually Naomi who did it. And let's say Naomi wins the title at WrestleMania. Now we're heading towards Jade versus Naomi, probably a triple threat between the three of them at SummerSlam. Put the title on Jade, and we move forward. So I'm not against that. I don't think we find out who attacked Jade though until post Chamber.
I agree.
Because we have been stretching this story out for a while and have done nothing with it, and then we're like, oh yeah, here's a little bit. Nope, we're not doing anything anymore. Oh, here's a little bit more. Like, it seems like we're doing that heading into WrestleMania.
I think good chance that Jade shows up at Chamber in some way. And like you said, we find out post Chamber. I don't think at Chamber, but somehow after that, SmackDown after, what have you. All that to say, both of the men's and the women's star-studded field this year. I think I'm looking at you're higher on Roxanne than I am as far as potentially winning this match. She would be number 6 for me, but of the other 5 ladies, I'm cool with any of them winning this match, and I think it makes perfect sense for any of them to win. Aaron texted me this earlier, and I have to put this comment up. Jade Cargill. Because she got attacked on a car. Oh, Lord. This is what I have to put up with on a daily basis. I know. All right, let's move to the men's Elimination Chamber match. Now, disclaimer before we start talking about this match. We know that this is going to lead to Cody Rhodes. Okay. And we're going to talk about Cody Rhodes in just a minute in a separate situation, because I think there's a ton going on with Cody that we need to talk about that I am very upset about. So we'll get to that in a minute. So let's talk about the Elimination Chamber, just how the field is shaking out. We saw it's filled up now, made official tonight with Seth Rollins getting the victory over Finn Balor in a fantastic main event on Monday Night Raw. The other participants from right to left, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, John Cena, Logan Paul, and Damian Priest. So that is the star-studded men's field of the Elimination Chamber. First of all, man, what a main event on Monday Night Raw tonight between Rollins and Balor. I mean, like, the only thing that I am mad about with this Monday Night Raw, I don't feel like they promoted this match nearly enough throughout the show. Like, build this sucker up. This is like a match that we haven't gotten very much of since the SummerSlam Universal title debacle.
Yeah. I think they should have built this up a lot more. That, and then obviously the pinfall that was just a disaster from the beginning. It seemed like, but I mean, like I told you this, they recovered really well. And it looked back and forth. There was a moment towards the end where I was like, "Is Finn gonna win this?"
I thought for a minute
it would be really interesting if Seth lost and we put Finn in the chamber, and then that just adds even more to the deranged Seth Rollins that we saw at the Rumble. I think, but I'm not against Seth being in this. I think Seth, adding to this star power that's in this chamber. And like we said, it's a star-studded field in the chamber aside from Logan Paul. Like it's a who's who in the chamber.
But then you got Logan Paul in there who's going to do something stupid in the match and is going to wow everybody, and it's going to be incredible. You know that.
It'll be something. I don't know if I'll say incredible, but it'll be something.
Yeah, he definitely, for as highly as we've talked about him in the past in the ring, he didn't come with his working boots on last week.
Nope,
he did not. Let's just say that. All right, Aaron's prediction is that Logan Paul is 100% winning the chamber.
I'm so glad we don't agree on this one.
I'm not going to say that we're going to predict who is going to win the chamber match. But here's an interesting theory, Andy, that I saw floated around online. I don't know if you saw this or not, but let's roll with this for a second. You've got the chamber, you got the men's chamber match, and it comes down to CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Last two in the chamber. Number one, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Cena's in the last two, no matter what, if he wins or not. But let's just say for this theory that I saw online, that it's Punk and it's Rollins. Theory is that Roman Reigns interferes in the chamber match and costs Seth Rollins the chamber match, cashing in the favor of CM Punk, leading him to Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins in a singles match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm on board. The more I've thought about it, the less I want the Punk Rollins Reigns triple threat at Mania. I
just don't know how to get out of it. That's a way.
I think that's a way that you get out of it. I think another way is you just have Punk win the chamber. Like, I think that's just another way is Punk just wins the chamber and it's like, all right, I don't even need to worry about you guys. My spot's set at WrestleMania. You two figure it out. And then you can come talk to me afterwards. That's the only way I can see that going forward. But I like that theory. I think that's such an interesting way. I thought there was a chance that Roman would have shown up tonight and cost Seth. And then we go to the chamber and Roman and Seth are trying to take Punk out and they still take each other out and help Punk win the chamber. And then that way they still go forward with theirs and Punk goes. The stories are still continuing side by side that they can meet up again at some point, but not just at WrestleMania this year.
Okay. So if we're not picking this, Aaron is clearly floating theories out here. John Cena turns heel in the chamber, and we finally get heel Cena versus Cody at WrestleMania. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't either.
I'm fine hearing you out, Aaron. I just don't think it's going to happen. Cena versus Cody seems very, very likely, and I've said from the jump that I don't like it. But it's like I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this Punk Rollins Reigns triple threat match again. If you don't go with that theory, you run Roman Solo back again at WrestleMania, I guess. You go Punk Rollins Drew in a triple threat match, or you take Punk out of that equation. We've seen a little bit of beef with Punk and Logan Paul. You got to have something for him at WrestleMania. And I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, that's the worst timeline is Punk versus Paul at WrestleMania. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be great. But I just that's not the Punk WrestleMania match that I would want to see necessarily.
And I don't think it's a WrestleMania match that Punk wants.
I think we're heading maybe not towards Punk or Paul AJ. I think we're heading towards AJ Breaker for the title at WrestleMania, which will be amazing. I don't know. Like I think there's a way that you can do Seth versus Roman by themselves. And I think the triple threat needs to be Cody, Cena, Punk. Because I think there's a way that you can have Punk win the Chamber, have it come down to Punk and Cena, like we talked about. Punk wins the Chamber, and then we go into, as we go into the WrestleMania season, we head closer into it. I think really you can just have Cena come out and say, I need this. Like we can see how desperate he is, and we can even call back to when it was supposed to be like the fans were begging for it to be Cena Punk Rock in 2011, and we can start to call some of these things back. But if you don't do that, I think the next best thing for Cena is Logan Paul.
I agree.
I think you can do Cena Paul, Punk Rollins, or Punk Rhodes, Reigns Rollins. I think you can do Drew McIntyre, LA Knight. I think there's a lot of ways that we can go.
Yep.
But the more we get closer to WrestleMania, the more bizarre this WrestleMania is. It is nothing like what we pictured it would be a month ago, like let alone last year. This WrestleMania is it seems like it's kind of all over the place right now.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's by design or if it's just sort of happening that way.
Aaron brought this comment up earlier, and I'm bringing it back. Punk, Rollins, Cody for the championship at WrestleMania. And then you get your Cena versus Logan Paul that way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we're getting ready to talk about Cody Rhodes. In fact, let's transition into talking more about Cody Rhodes and his road, because there are a lot of different ways that we can go in this chamber, but ultimately the road leads to Cody Rhodes and the WWE Championship. And I said this 2 weeks ago on the podcast, Andy, and I'm going to keep harping on it because I don't know if my expectations were just set so high after last year. And we have all this talk about, oh, if you like last year, you ain't seen nothing yet, or the story we're going to tell this or that, or blah, 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 blah. I get that you're trying to drum up business. I get all of that. But to not have a clear story for the face of the company, to me, is just, it just baffles me, Andy. Like, I understand if John Cena wins the Elimination Chamber, that writes itself. Cena, Cody. Okay, boom. You don't have to really sell me on that. It's going to sell itself. Punk, Cody, we've done a couple of things where we've dipped into that and we can sell that as well. Okay, I can get behind that. But I just feel like, I said this 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to say it again, Andy. I just feel like Cody is forgotten about. Like when it comes to WrestleMania. And that's just, I don't know. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that he's forgotten about, or is there's too many stories heading into this. Like there's too many unfinished stories heading into WrestleMania that are WrestleMania worthy matches.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, I mean, Punk Rhodes at WrestleMania is a WrestleMania match. Punk Rollins, Punk Reigns, like we've seen, or I'm sorry, Rhodes Reigns, we've seen that multiple times. Rhodes Rollins, we've seen that at WrestleMania. Rhodes Cena, we've seen, like we want to see that match at some point. There's so many matches that are WrestleMania worthy that we are trying to cram, it seems like, into one WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, layering them out throughout the year or whatever the case is. I think Cody is becoming an afterthought heading into WrestleMania, but I think once we get past the Chamber, I think that completely changes. I think Cody's right back at the center.
I can agree with that.
He's right back at the forefront. But what is he doing between the Rumble and Chamber? Like, what is he doing between that month? What is he doing right after the Chamber? I think there's a lot of things that need to be picked up on. And we've seen Triple H book really well, but we've seen some areas where it's kind of fallen off or tapered off or just not gotten to that point. And the last thing you want for that to happen is, like you said, to the face of the company, the world champion heading into the biggest show of the year. I think we're heading into that area. I'm not saying we're there yet, but I think it's a possibility that we are heading into that area.
If you're watching on YouTube, you see a shot right there from Friday Night SmackDown this past week of Jacob Fatu and Cody Rhodes, and Jacob eyeing that championship. Obviously, that's a big dream match as well. That's one that you didn't mention. All of those can be sold as WrestleMania matches, as you mentioned. The thing that is getting me is that Cody is still tied up in this version of the bloodline, and I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it seems like we're headed towards Cody versus Solo at Elimination Chamber. Like, what? Why are we? Why? It just, it makes no sense that you can't come up. Are you waiting for Randy Orton? Like, it doesn't seem that way though, because we're going to talk about Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn here in a minute, which clears the path for Kevin versus Randy at WrestleMania. So you're probably not waiting on Randy. Drew, okay, you had a great year last year. Do you reward him with a Cody championship match? That makes sense, but Drew's the bloodline hunter. Drew should be the one tied up with these guys, not Cody. And you mentioned Drew versus LA Knight earlier. While that would be a fine match, Drew has been preaching this bloodline nonsense. Why are we not going there? It just seems like too many steps back for Cody. I think you're right, though. I think once we get to Elimination Chamber and beyond, then we get more of an emphasis on Cody because the main event picture becomes clear. It's clear to me that whoever Cody faces, it's going to be a big enough matchup, Andy, where that's going to be the main event of night 2. He's the face of the company. It's just going to happen. It's also becoming clear to me as I'm literally speaking right now, I'm literally giving you real-time thoughts. There's no way Cody loses at WrestleMania. There are too many dream matches, in my opinion, that we have just listed off that I think he needs to be champion for, that he can carry even further. I don't think he loses at WrestleMania no matter who he faces.
Well, the last time I thought that, he lost, so I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go into that.
He wasn't the champion though when you thought it.
Yeah, but it's still the same principle in my mind. I don't know. Like I agree, but I think he could lose the title. Like I love Cody to death. I think his title run has been fine, but it's not hard to argue that he is more interesting as the chase than as the champ.
100%.
And so I think you put the right champion, like again, and I know I'm the homer. I'm fine with that. Throw me as the homer. CM Punk as the champ, there's a lot of stories you can tell. Because could you imagine the jealousy of Seth Rollins comes into play again? Drew McIntyre is back in play again. Roman Reigns is still in play. You still have the Cody match. Now, because of his involvement in War Games, Jacob Fatu is a big deal as a part of that. And there's a lot of stories that you can tell. I think the same is true with Cena. I think Cena as champ, there's a lot of dream matches. So I don't think the dream match is necessarily the caveat to him being champion. However, I don't know where we're going for WrestleMania, and that's a good thing and a frustrating thing at the same time because I can tell you right now, if we're heading towards Cody versus Solo at the Chamber, I'm kind of out. Like I don't want to see that again. I'm done with that. I don't want to see, and I've been harping on this, and I know I've been harping on this for a while. Solo is the boringest member of the Bloodline. Like Tama Tonga has more character and is more interesting to me than Solo Sikoa. So I think we're heading to that regard. I think we're heading to Jacob Fatu versus Solo at WrestleMania.
Me too.
I think we're heading to, that. I mean, I think we're heading to that match that leaves Cody open to be away from the Bloodline. I think the Bloodline does not need to be the main story going into WrestleMania. I don't even think it needs to be the B story going into WrestleMania. I think it can take a year or two off. But again, where does that leave Cody? Because yes, while Cena's a great choice and Punk's a great choice, are we really not going to have Cena go after a title, the world title, in his last WrestleMania ever?
Yep.
So there's a lot of things in the air. I'm going to throw this out to you because I heard this theory from, I want to say Bully Ray and from Ariel Awane. We
Both
get Punk Rhodes,
very reputable people in the
Yeah.
business that I would just be on board with.
We get Punk Rhodes at WrestleMania.
Okay.
We get Seth Roman at WrestleMania.
Yep.
And the Cena match is for the TNA World Title against Joe Hendry. Because I'll say this, that match is happening this year. We're getting Cena versus Hendry at some point.
If it wasn't already public that it was John Cena's last WrestleMania, I could get on board with it. But because it's Cena's last WrestleMania, I can't. I agree that the match should happen at some point this year.
Yeah.
Aaron's head would literally explode, he says, if that happened. Aaron, you wouldn't be the only one that would happen.
Could you imagine a world in 2025 where John Cena
is wrestling
TNA? No, it's the TNA World Heavyweight Champion.
And that's championship number 17 that has to be
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Oh,
the
my.
One that Flair never won.
Okay, so quickly, as we wrap up, Cody, we still got a couple more things to get to. Appreciate you guys being tuned in live. If you are, make sure that you vote in our poll. Who should Cody Rhodes face at WrestleMania? And Andy, that's the question I'm going to pose to you. I know we don't know where we're going to go with Cody, but if you have to pick right now, who is Cody Rhodes facing at WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas coming up this April?
If I had to pick right now, I am banking on a triple threat. I don't know how we get there, but we get there between Cody Rhodes, John Cena, and CM Punk.
Interesting. Okay. Don't know how we get there, but you're going there. Okay.
I have no idea how we get there, but we get there.
You ready for this?
Not when you say that, no.
Dwayne hijacks the main event again. And we still get Cody Rock.
No, there's no way. I can
There's
promise
no
you
way?
this.
There's no way?
There's no way. There's no way. I think there's no way that Rock would be in a match at WrestleMania and we haven't seen him yet. There's no way.
Really? You don't think so?
Yeah. No.
I think there's absolutely a way. There's already
in an actual legit match. Not talking about the thing that they did at WrestleMania 32.
Oh,
like
no.
an actual bell to bell. I don't think there's any way.
Oh, you could 100% do it. You could 100% do it. Very easily.
Do it, yes.
All
So
Rock,
how do you...
literally all Rock has to do, Andy, and you know this because we saw it last year when he hijacked it from Cody the first time. All Rock has to do is walk out, snap his fingers, and it's over. He's in the main event against Cody Rhodes. That's all he has to do.
Are you saying this would happen? Like we wouldn't find out until WrestleMania?
Oh, no. We would know before.
That's what I thought you were saying. Okay, that's what I thought you were saying.
No.
Like he just shows up and like all of a sudden whoever Cody was supposed to face is no longer facing him and it's Rock just walking out. That's what I thought you said.
That would absolutely be hilarious if
It'd
that
be
happened.
horrible. Well, it depends on who he replaced. If it was like Dominic Mysterio, then I'm all for it. But
well, that's fair. That's true. No, I think Rock is still the main event against Cody Rhodes this year. Somehow, some way, just like you don't know how we get to the triple threat, I don't know how we get to this either. But I think we get there.
I think if we get there, it's still a triple threat.
With Roman?
No, with Cena.
Oh, so you're saying Rock, Cena. Okay, I can get on board with that. I can 100% get on board with that.
Again, we just leave Punk out of the equation again.
For sure.
We're back full circle, baby.
But then, okay, so let's look at it this way, and we are running heavy on time, and I apologize. We got two more things we got to get to. Cena, Cody, Rock, triple threat. Then this opens you up to do Punk, Drew, Rollins. which is what I've been begging for, that triple threat match. The only one on the outside there is Roman. So you could do Roman. You could do Roman versus Jacob if you wanted to rush it. I wouldn't, but you could do it. I don't know. Maybe you get Punk Rollins in that singles match we wanted. Then you get Drew versus Roman, the Bloodline Hunter versus, you could do that.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, Andy, is we've talked about this. There's so many ways that we could go with this. We just don't know. The thing is it can be frustrating at times because we're like, I just want a clear picture. Like, I want to see it together. I want to see these steps happen. But Andy, at the same time, the world is our oyster as far as this WrestleMania card goes. And I couldn't be more excited to see how it shakes out, man, because I know that because of all of these little stories that they're building to, you go here, there. I know because we're so invested in them that it's going to be incredible, whatever we get.
Yeah, I agree completely. I guess my only fear is that there are too many possibilities, because that can be a real problem if there are too many possibilities. I think by Chamber, we're going to know a majority of it. I don't think we know the full picture because we thought we knew the full picture at Rumble last year. And then that Friday night, the wrestling world exploded. So you never know what can happen, but we need to get I don't need to know what's going to happen at WrestleMania, who's going to face at WrestleMania, but we need to get a clearer picture of who's actually the potential, like who's actually at the top to get there.
Yep. They're doing a great job keeping us guessing, though.
Yeah.
We appreciate you guys being tuned in. Again, if you're watching live and you haven't subscribed to the channel, it is free. Please do it. It doesn't sign you up for anything. We're not going to put you on an email list. We're not going to call you. We're not going to spam you. We're not going to do any of that. It just helps us so much if you are subscribed to the channel. The only way this channel grows, the only way that we can get guests to come on the show, the only way that this show gets seen by more people is by more people commenting, more people subscribing, and more people hitting that thumbs up button. You do those three things for us, spread the word about the show, and then we will grow this thing. We appreciate your support so very much. If you're listening on podcast, just follow on whatever platform that you are on. We would appreciate that as well. And if you're listening rather on SportsWire Radio, you keep it tuned in right here 24/7. Tom and the crew have you covered with everything you need covering sports. In fact, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and tell you about it because I'm going to forget something. I'm going to let the Reverend Tom Bryce tell you everything you need to know about SportsWire Radio.
Looking for all the latest happenings in the world of sports and wrestling? Well, you're in luck because SportsWire Radio has you covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. With great shows in the world of sports such as the Pinstripe Chronicles hosted by Uncle Tats, Donald Stewart, and Rob Barrows. New York Baseball Talk with Chris Bazaya and Rob Maraska. The Liftoff Jets also hosted by Chris Bazaya and Sharman Phillip. Neil Villapiano and the Devil's State of Mind. Randy Dillon's Hockey Fan Chat. In the world of wrestling, SportsWire Radio has you covered with Squared Circle Radio featuring Chris Belcher, Andy York, and Jared Justice. Those sit-down marks with DB, Primo, AJ, and Michael. A work in progress featuring the Mayor of Canton, Piles, and Glenn Abbott. You can catch all of these great shows and more anytime, anywhere, and any place via the Listen Live button on SportsWireRadio.org, and you can also catch SportsWire Radio anytime on YouTube at SportsWire Radio 6579 to catch all the latest happenings in the world of wrestling. SportsWire Radio has you covered. It's all sports matters and all wrestling matters here on SportsWire Radio. I am your host, the owner of SportsWire Radio, the #1 global radio station, the owner of the Promo Wrestling Federation, and one of the owners of the Pride Wrestling Federation, your voice, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters, the Reverend Tom Bryce.
Let's go. As Aaron says, I love when this dude yells random names at me. Gets me absolutely shacked. Oh, Tom Bryce. He's a ball of energy, ladies and gentlemen. And again, if you haven't checked out SportsWire Radio, please make sure that you do that. That man has you covered. Their YouTube channel has a lot of great content on there, including interviews with Rhino and with Savio Vega. Go check that out. Those are the only interviews that Tom does. But for you WWE fans, those are probably the most notable. Go check those out. A lot of fun. All right. We got 2 more big picture topics to get to here. One, I got to give a disclaimer. I gave a disclaimer a minute ago. I'm going to give a disclaimer on this question as well. Andy, when I'm talking about mid-card titles and there being an issue with the mid-card titles in the WWE, I am not talking about Our Lady Liberty, the Women's United States Champion, Chelsea Green. This woman, and I know you would agree with me, has been booked to absolute perfection before she was the champion and since she's been champion. Would you not agree?
Up until this past Friday, yes.
Okay. So I can't ask you then. She's been booked to absolute perfection. All right. Doesn't matter what you say. The
only reason why I said this is because I don't like when a new champ just takes a pinfall on a random show.
Okay, well, that was going to be part of my question, but we'll get there.
The
other person that I'm going to leave out of this conversation is the men's United States champion. That is Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, Nakamura has not been on every single show, but I think this new character of his doesn't have to be on every show. In fact, I would rather it not be on every show. It leaves more suspense to him. They started doing the Japanese promos last year, and they're still doing those. I really like those. This samurai look of Shinsuke is really cool. So I'm not going to be upset with Shinsuke. The point of this conversation is fixing the mid-card title problem. Specifically the men's and women's Intercontinental Championship. You mentioned Braun Breaker earlier. Let's go ahead and get him out of the way first. The men's Intercontinental Champion, his second reign as champion. His first was very meaningful, and the second one, not so much, Andy. Not so much. He and Lyra Valkyria, the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion, have both been repeatedly shown sitting in the audience at Monday Night Raw. Andy, why is this Intercontinental title reign of Braun Breaker's not been as appealing, I guess, as the first?
Well, it's weird because I agree the Intercontinental Championship is not being pictured at the forefront. It's not being used like it was on Gunther and even Sami Zayn, or even Breaker's first appearance. I think it's hurt the IC title. It has not hurt Braun Breaker at all. Like, Braun Breaker is still, we saw what he did at the Rumble, the iShow Speed, and the place went crazy for it.
Sure.
Him and AJ Styles just go face to face last week, and I'm sure you were in the building. The place was like, there's a buzz in the atmosphere because they were face to face, even what happened tonight.
Yep.
So I don't think it's, at least on the men's side, the champion is not being hurt. The title is being hurt. And this is like one of the first times that we've actually had this kind of problem, I feel like, in a while. Of normally the title elevates the champion. I think Braun Breaker's at a point now where he doesn't need the IC title anymore. He needs to go on to main event level, go after the world title, and put the IC title on. I've said, I don't know, like 2-3 years now. Why has Shaq Gable never been an Intercontinental Champion? Like, why has, I think Penta is like the perfect candidate for an Intercontinental Champion. If you want to have a lot of fun, Dominic Mysterio would be a weird and fun Intercontinental Champion.
Bro, he would be the best.
Yeah, so like I think it's not because Braun Breaker is doing such a bad job. I honestly think it's because Braun Breaker is, and I hate to say this because I love the IC title, Breaker's at the point now where he's kind of above the IC title, much like Gunther was, and ready to go into the main event scene.
So it seems like, you mentioned it a couple of times already, we're pairing AJ Styles with Braun Breaker, which, okay, bring AJ back, and it's a great pairing. Braun is probably going to win. They're probably just feeding AJ to him. So if that is the WrestleMania match for these guys, then we're going to continue this Intercontinental title reign of Braun Breaker in this slow molasses pace what we're doing here? Or do you make a title switch? Do you have AJ take the title off of him, have AJ elevate somebody else when he loses it, and that's how you get Braun into the world title picture?
Yeah, I think that's not a bad way, and I don't know. I think AJ needs the IC title more than a Breaker does right now, because AJ has been hurt for a while. He hasn't won a lot of matches in a long time. He hasn't felt as important as he should have. I think him with the IC title can definitely do that. I don't think he needs a long reign. I think he can have it for a couple months, lose it. I mean, AJ Styles versus Penta for the IC title. Yes. Money right now.
Let's go.
I need it right now. AJ Styles, I know he's on SmackDown, but we can dream AJ Styles versus Jacob Fatu for the IC title. There's a lot of options with AJ as champ. And again, just put Breaker in, Jey Uso wins the World Heavyweight Champion. Who is the first person that can go after him? A man that he has beaten before and has beaten him, Braun Breaker. And I think that story tells itself.
You talk about somebody else on SmackDown, man. Look what it did for Jey Uso, even though it was a couple of weeks. Yeah. What about AJ Styles versus Jimmy Uso for the Intercontinental Championship? Man up, who's better? Put that gold on Jimmy Uso. That could be interesting, depending on how that goes. So okay, we've sort of solved the problem for Braun Breaker. We got to incorporate the star power. We got to figure out how to elevate him to the next level. But Andy, solve the problem for Lyra Valkyria. This is the first women's Intercontinental Champion. And I just don't feel like they're showcasing her at all, for lack of a better term. How do we fix this? Or is there a fix for this? Do we put the title on Bayley and let Bayley carry it around for a while?
I think that's an option. I think I'm trying to think who's on Raw.
Exactly.
That's part of the problem. Exactly. I mean, I think you can do even an Alexa Bliss for a little bit. I think we'll do well for that title. Or Liv Morgan. Or Raquel Rodriguez, or I think there are options. I think the problem is, and this is the difference between the men's and the women's mid-card titles. And I don't mean this in a bad way at all, because I think Lyra Valkyria I think she's a great talent. She's amazing in the ring. I think she has the tools. She's just not been given the chance to really show her character.
Sure,
we've been emotionally invested with Chelsea Green for a while. I mean, we were both there at the Rumble. She got she was the most consistent pop in the women's match the entire time. To the point where she's a heel, got eliminated, and the entire arena booed.
70,000 people booed.
I was one of them. Stood up and booed because I did not want her to get eliminated yet. So we care about Chelsea Green because of the character. She's funny. She does all the things right. I think Lyra can get there. I don't think she was a good choice for a first champion.
I agree. I agree with that.
I think you could now. All that could change. I think there have been some plans of maybe for WrestleMania they were supposed to do Lyra versus Becky because they have a good connection together. Don't think that's going to happen now. So maybe they have to pivot. And I don't want to put the title on a Trish Stratus or somebody like that. I don't want to put it on a part-time. I think you need somebody that's established, like a Bayley, like a Naomi, like a Liv Morgan. I think you need to put the title on someone like her. I don't like her at all. Put it on Nia Jax. Let Nia Jax just be a dominant champion again with the IC title, so that way when somebody beats her, it means something. But we don't get that with the women's IC title right now.
You know who I would put the title on? The woman that just debuted in NXT and transitioning to our fifth question, Jordynne Grace would be my Intercontinental Champion. Andy, why? I know this was a big splash at Vengeance Day, and we're going to talk about the other big splash debut in just a minute in NXT. But we are sitting here racking our brain on the main roster women's division as to who should be these champions. And you have a huge superstar coming in from TNA and you bring her to NXT where you already have a star. Look, Stephanie Vakir and Julia right there dominating the scene. Obviously, Roxanne Perez is probably headed to the main roster, so maybe you need to fill that void. But why put Jordynne Grace in NXT as she's already established in the Rumble and the main roster people know who she is?
Yeah, I think one, it's to get Jordynne Grace. It's a good way to keep her off Mania because they probably didn't have any plans for her. So I'm not necessarily mad with that. Honestly, if we go to what's the NXT show? Stand and Deliver. I think that's the one that's WrestleMania weekend.
Yes, it is.
If we go there and get a triple threat of Jordynne Grace versus Stephanie Vakir versus Julia, that is match of the weekend. Like, I can tell you that right now. That's probably match of the weekend because that's the women's division is fine in the next 5 years. Like the women's division is going to continue to get better and better and better. I think this is a short stint for Jordynne Grace post WrestleMania, the Raw after Mania. I think you can have Lyra Valkyria do an open challenge. Who answers it? Jordynne Grace, 2-minute match. Jordynne squashes her as champ, and we move forward.
I mean, that's what I would do right now. But again, I don't have the book, unfortunately. The other big splash,
Jordynne Grace to win the Rumble. So.
I would. That is true, and I stand by that.
Roxanne had the Jordan spot.
I know. Unfortunately, can you imagine if that Rumble would have come down to Charlotte and Jordynne Grace? The place would have went nuts.
That would have been great.
Again, I stand by that. All right, the other big splash debut in NXT this week. 2 days, if that, after his contract expired, Absolute Ricky Starks, well, at least we think that's what his name is going to be, shows up in NXT and makes a big splash, Andy. My goodness, this dude, I'm going to say it right now. I think Ricky Starks rises higher and faster in NXT than Ethan Page did. And that's saying something because he was real fast.
Yeah. I don't know if he's going to have a segment with The Rock, but he'll definitely get. My only question is, what is his name? We don't know what is. They have intentionally not said his name the entire week. Every video he's posted.
I think it has to be Ricky Starks. I think that's what. I think he's going to come out because he's got a live mic this week.
It's not a contract. Yeah.
I think he comes out and he says, "My name is Absolute Ricky Starks," and the place is going to go nuts, or what have you. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the perfect place for him. I think it's a great place for him, much like Sean Spears, much like Ethan Page. I think AEW was good for those three guys to rejuvenate their career, especially like a Sean Spears. I think it was great for them to get out there, to be with some of the best, to do their thing. But now they can go to NXT and really hone in on what they're able to do.
Yep.
To the point where I'm like, in 3 years, I'm ready for the Ricky Starks versus Cody Rhodes match because that's 1,000% going to happen very quickly, very soon, as soon as he gets called up to the main roster. The other question is, though, how long until Malachi Black shows up? And does Miro show up in WWE? Because I don't think it's a given that Miro shows up.
I'd put Miro in NXT. I really would.
Oh, no.
Like, I think it would be cool for him to go to, look, you go down and have him in like a Samoa Joe type spot in NXT. I think that could be really, really cool.
Could you imagine post WrestleMania, the Raw after Mania, let's say Cena's champ in the middle of the ring and Rusev's music hits and walks out? The place would go crazy for that.
Yeah.
Because they have a long history together, especially at WrestleMania. Not even saying they have to face each other. I just think it's a great way to get Rusev back on.
Because of the TNA relationship, the place would only go crazy if Aiden English came out and did the Rusev Day entrance.
Yes.
And then the place would go nuts. I think the Raw after Mania is Malachi Black. I think that's where we get him. Yeah. I don't think they rush him before then. I think maybe you do vignettes, maybe you tease, maybe you don't. There's no need right now.
Yeah.
We're just sitting here talking about how stacked the card is and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't think there's any need to put Malachi in there right now. All right. That's our 5 biggest questions, but Monday Night Raw tonight saw a whole lot of things, including a match confirmed for Elimination Chamber, Andy, that I did not expect to happen. I said it should happen a couple of weeks ago on the show, but I didn't expect it to. Unsanctioned match, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. I said this earlier, man, getting this match out of the way now opens up the door for Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. I don't know exactly what you do with Sami Zayn. Maybe it's Karrion Kross. I don't know. But what are your thoughts on this match? Rushed? I don't know. Do you think it's rushed?
It feels rushed. This feels like it should be at Mania. Like an unsanctioned match between these two guys should be at Mania. And I think you could have done something, and like, because obviously both guys need to be on the show in Toronto. And I think you could have done something where Kevin Owens is in the middle of the ring cutting a promo about how, Sammy's not man enough to come out. He's hurt. He's weak, blah, blah, blah. Sammy's music hits and just bum rushes the ring and attacks him, and the place goes crazy. And then we head into, maybe Kevin Owens hits him with another package pile driver, and we go forward. I think there's still a chance that before the match even begins, we get a little NXT callback where Kevin attacks Sammy beforehand and package pile drivers him on the ramp, and the match doesn't even happen. Like they just beat each other up beforehand, or Kevin just beats him up beforehand, and then that gets saved for WrestleMania. But then again, if that's the case, what do you do with Randy? Like Randy has to fit in here somewhere.
And you talk about rushing things. You're not going to rush Cody Randy for WrestleMania. No. You can't do that. I think it has to be KO versus Randy at WrestleMania. I think if you don't do Sammy versus Karrion Kross, which it seems like that might be where we're headed, I don't know. I probably wouldn't put that on the WrestleMania card. That's just me. You could tag Sammy with like Jimmy Uso, and they could face, depending on what you're going to do with Jacob Fatu, they could face Jacob and Tamatanga, or, I don't know exactly how all that shakes out, but you could put him in a tag match with Jimmy. That could be really cool. I don't know, man. I kind of thought that it seemed like when Sammy was cutting his promo, when they did the cell phone promos this past week on social media, it just seemed like they were just gonna, like you said, promo or something at Elimination Chamber and just go face to face or whatever. You're right. You have to have them on the show. I think, though, as much as cool as it would be to have these guys go at it again at Mania, it might mean more to them. I'm not putting words in their mouth. Might mean more to them to have this match in Canada against each other. Like, you know what I mean? So it could be. I'm not saying they have, the authority to call that or whatever.
Right.
But it might be more for them there.
Yeah. No, I get that, and I agree. I mean, listen, we're getting a WrestleMania quality match on Elimination Chamber like 3 years in a row, so I'm not complaining about that at all. I hope, this is my hope, is that we get this match at WrestleMania in front of a live audience with a massive stipulation.
Yeah.
I know I'm the Ring of Honor guy here. This, like, for the Intercontinental Championship between these two guys and a stipulation at WrestleMania just screams, one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. So I think we need to get there at some point. But the fact that it's happening at Chamber is not a big deal at all. I think it's the perfect place for them in their home country, and then it kind of frees them up to do whatever they need to do at WrestleMania.
Aaron's at it again. What is an unsanctioned match? Does it mean it gets tariffs, especially since it's in Canada? Okay.
Listen, it's two Canadians. They're fine. If there's an American in there, they'd be getting lit up like they did the other night.
That's fair. That's fair. That's true.
America saw red the other night playing hockey.
They did. That's true.
Or what is it? Now we've dubbed it ice football. It's no longer hockey because we own it. It's ice football.
Oh, geez. We don't need to get started with hockey with Aaron. We're going to be here all night long. Other news that broke this week in the world of wrestling, Michelle McCool, long overdue, Andy, finally taking her rightful place as a member of the WWE Hall of Fame. Long overdue. Why did it take so long, Andy, to get Michelle McCool in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. I don't know why it's taken so long. I also, I think she should be a 2-time Hall of Famer with by herself, Michelle McCool, and then her and Layla need to be in together because they literally carried the women's division for like 3 years.
Right.
So I think that's they absolutely should. Michelle's one of those that you pick her up and plant her like prime Michelle McCool in today's WWE, and she fits right in. She's like Beth Phoenix. They just fit right in with this style. It's a shame she never got the respect that she deserved during her run and during her time.
Yep.
And not necessarily from the fans, but like from management as well. And like you said, absolutely deserved. This class is looking to be really stacked. I like that Triple H got payback of just dropping it on them instead of, and since Taker did it to him, he'll do it to his wife. But yeah, it's going to be, it's looking like it's going to be a stacked Hall of Fame, and it seems like they're taking it more seriously now, which I desperately appreciate.
Yep. And as we get closer and closer to WrestleMania, you guys know, if you've been following us for any length of time, we crank out more and more episodes. When WrestleMania season rolls around, we will devote an entire episode this year to the Hall of Fame class, paying tribute to all those who are getting inducted and that sort of thing. So be on the lookout for that. And the best way for you to be on the lookout for that is subscribe to the channel. Just subscribe, hit the notifications bell right down below the video. Doesn't cost you a thing, and it helps us a ton. One more quick thing to get to. Let's kick it old school. We love talking old school stuff. This day in wrestling history, if you're watching this after it's live, you'll catch it on the day that this happens, February the 18th, 1996. In your house from Louisville, Kentucky, you see Shawn Michaels wrestled Owen Hart that night for the #1 contendership for a shot at WrestleMania. Bret Hart and Diesel in a steel cage that night. Why this is significant, Andy? It was 29 years ago. This event was my very first in-person WWE event that I ever attended. Yes, I started with a pay-per-view. Shawn Michaels danced on top of the In Your House and swung down. Everybody's seen that highlight. Yes, I was there in person. What an awesome night it was. Super cool to be able to look back and to see that was this week. I'm probably going to go watch that pay-per-view sometime this week just to reminisce. The Razor Ramon 1, 2, 3 Kid Crybaby match was also that night. The Undertaker came up through the ring that night. Just a really cool night. But that was my first WWE experience. Andy, what was yours, since you weren't born when I went to this show?
A couple months later I would be, but
yes. But what was your first WWE experience?
So
Why? What was your first event?
My first live event was, I don't remember the date exactly, but it's one of the Raws leading into WrestleMania 32, which was here in Nashville. And the reason why I remember that so well, I remember a lot of it. One, it was the night we got Sasha versus Becky, with the winner getting a #1 contender to face Charlotte, and they both pinned each other. So that's how they set up. They set up that. That's also the night that we got Vince coming out, calling out Shane, calling out Taker, and we got all three of them in the ring at the same time, which for like my first introduction to WWE was flipping through the channel and seeing Undertaker's entrance, and then being there to see it live in person. I got chills just now thinking about it, and that's like the moment I was hooked on it forever. I think we also they were building to, they hadn't gotten to Roadblock yet, or they had just gotten past Roadblock when they did the random Triple H versus Dean Ambrose match.
I think I don't remember. I'm trying to.
That's not Triple H beat down Roman Reigns. He beat down Roman that night, I think, in Nashville.
I don't remember if we were at Roadblock or, because I was at that Raw too. I feel like we weren't at. I feel like Roadblock maybe was that weekend or something. Like we were right up to it or something like that. That was also the night, if I remember correctly, during the 3-week tag team stint of Y2AJ.
Yeah, we got that too.
It was the first week that they had the shirts, and then the next week Jericho turned on him.
Yeah. So there's just a lot that I remember from my first WWE live event, and then my first pay-per-view that I went to, live pay-per-view, was Survivor Series 2019, just before the pandemic. got to see War Games. This is the one where Kevin Owens came back for the one time in War Games. It was Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. Got to see the greatest match, one of the greatest matches I've ever seen in person, with Pete Dunne versus Adam Cole for the NXT title. That match was insane. And so, yeah, just watching wrestling on TV is a lot of fun. You really fall in love with it when you go to see it in person.
Yes.
And
Aaron,
it's so much better.
Aaron, who's in the comments right now, went to Raw with me last week in Nashville. It was his first live wrestling experience as well. So I'm sure he's going to flood the comment if he's still watching. Flood the comments with his thoughts on going to live wrestling. It's definitely, nobody does live wrestling like WWE. Like, I know AEW's out there, and I'm not going to dog them. And I know TNA's out there. I'm not going to dog them. All I'm going to say is nobody does live wrestling like WWE. It's just, it's an experience like no other. Aaron says, one of the coolest things ever, especially when Liv showed up, I yelled that I can fix her.
Oh
People laughed. I can confirm.
I saw
this
I
happened.
saw all of you yeeting too when Jey Uso walked out.
Great.
I could see all of you yeeting. That was great.
Yeah, if you go back and watch last week's Raw on Netflix, we are on the third row in the lower bowl, so not on the floor, but on the third row on the hard cam side. You can see me in my Royal Rumble hoodie. Josh Pate, friend of the show, college football personality, big guy, you can't miss him. He's sitting right beside me. And then his girlfriend was there, and then Aaron and Bradley, one of our coworkers, and Jesse, who was on our Royal Rumble post show, and his wife was there. So we're all sitting there. So you can't miss us if you know where you're looking. And then, yes, we're all yeeting, except Josh. Josh did not yeet.
I could tell.
He
Josh stuck out very. He's the first one I saw. And I looked, I was like, oh, yeah, Chris is down there somewhere. And then there's Josh, and then we're moving over.
Yes. So yes, we were all eating. Jey Uso literally came down right beside of us. Like we were on the edge. Jey right down beside of us. It was amazing. Yeah. All that to say, WWE again, live, there's nothing like it. It's going to be in, oh jeez. Josh is anti-Yeet, anti-expansion, and anti-American. Well, he has his own set of problems. All right. Let's just call it what it is. If WWE is in your town, go see a WWE show. It might be more expensive nowadays, but go see a WWE show. It is so worth it, especially if you get a big pay-per-view that you can go to. I mean, good grief. All that to say, speaking of that, Andy, because the flu bug hit my house and because we were delayed in an episode last week, the Royal Rumble vlog is still in progress. It will be up this week. Subscribe to the channel. We are putting the Royal Rumble vlog up this week. It will happen. So check that out. We'll share that on social media. Make sure you check out our experience in Indianapolis. Got this cool t-shirt from the ladder match. Super cool. So you're going to see all of that. So make sure you check out that vlog. Yes, Aaron, a royal vlog. Yes, it is happening. All that to say, subscribe to the channel. Doesn't cost you a thing. Like the video. Helps us a ton. Shoot your comments and your questions. We will get those back to you. We'll answer all of those. Check out our partners over at SportsWire Radio and WSN. Andy, next week, Elimination Chamber preview show. We're going to predict it. 4 matches confirmed right now. We might get a 5th this Friday on SmackDown. Who knows? But should be a lot of fun as we preview the last premium live event before WrestleMania.
Yeah, the pay-per-view that used to mean absolutely nothing has a lot at stake now, and so I'm excited that this is our final stop before we get to WrestleMania. And then once we get past Chamber, the Chamber's exciting, but that build up to WrestleMania, there's nothing like it. So I'm looking forward to diving in and talking about it and all the twists and turns and just craziness that happens. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
We will do our best to iron it all out for you and make it make sense as best we can. Lots of dream matches on the table, but we're only going to get a few of them. Can't be disappointed. It's WrestleMania. We are 61 days away from the show of shows. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Like the video on the way out. We would appreciate it so much. For Mr. Andy York, my name is Chris Belcher. This has been yet another edition of Squared Circle Radio Live. We will catch you guys down the road.